today is so important for us to show up and really be intentional and mindful of how we're showing up in the world, who we're being, because today at some point is going to be once upon a time. And I say that not nonchalantly, but really with the utmost respect to all of us, to really show up in joy, to show up in the best that we can in our lives, so that you can go, once upon a time I was thinking this way, once upon a time I was being this way. Once upon a time, that phrase that we've heard so many times in movies that start off with these sagas or these stories. And I've really been thinking about how important that phrase is. It really kind of etched into my mind that everything in life becomes a once upon a time. So it's so crucial as I think about it that we show up every day being intentional, being mindful of how we're living, because however you choose to show up today, that is going to be the once upon a time. Once upon a time, I wasn't paying attention. Once upon a time, I was doing this. All those things that life becomes are your today that becomes once upon a time. And today, I definitely had a fun day, not in the most elegant way. I actually filled up my windshield fluid in my car, thinking it's windshield wiper fluid. And as I was driving, I started spraying, and the more I sprayed, the worse the glass became, to the point that I couldn't even see out of the window and had to pull aside to the side of the road. And I'm going, I don't have any water. I can't clean it. It just got worse and worse. And I attempted to clean it with a napkin. Finally, I stopped, obviously spraying, and then just let the windshield kind of do its things, the wipers, and it cleared it enough so that I could see. And as I'm sitting there and I'm looking through, and I could clearly see in my rear view mirror, but we don't live that way in our lives. We can't live looking at the rear view mirror because life is going forward. I really got very intentional and very mindful of that we need to show up to the best that we can every day. If this isn't a once upon a lifetime that I'm gonna do this, it's today is the day that becomes the once up on a lifetime. And I laughed at myself because there's no way anyone can predict what's coming. As much as we plan, as much as we do our own thing of thinking that this is the right strategy, this is the right way, nobody can predict life. But what you can do is figure out if you're showing up to the best of your ability at those times. If you're able to really look at things in a fun way and turn it around so that when you relay some of these things to yourself, to your mind, are you saying them in a kind way, or are you being mean to yourself? And I looked at it and I went, this is kind of funny that I created my own situation of blurring my windshield. I did it, but I didn't sit there and beat myself up. I just did the best that I could. And when I got to the next station, some wonderful young man that saw my windshield, he got out of his car and started cleaning my windshield with whatever he had. And I'm going, I didn't even ask. How beautiful it is to go, once upon a lifetime, I created this mess and someone actually helped me clean it and help me see better. And the whole purpose of all of this, you guys, is for us not to look at our lives with the regrets, to actually show up the best that we can. When I started this podcast, I cannot tell you how many times it took me thinking about it before I finally took the step of launching it. And I had a friend of mine that took me to another friend that we went through a practice podcast so that I can get comfortable with doing the podcast. And it's been a few years now, and it's been a beautiful journey of interviewing so many wonderful individuals and learning from all of them. But from all of this, by turning on that camera and not being in my head, but simply showing up as is, as the best that I can, to provide you the best things that are possible with interviews, with my information, as I continue to move forward. I look at the podcast as a way of looking at life as a once upon a lifetime, of sharing the best that is possible with individuals that I may never ever meet. And that's the beautiful thing about living in today's world, is the ability to show up as best that you can and put things on the internet that can reach people all over the world. And that was my entire intention with doing the podcast, is to be able to share with you interviews, share with you wisdom and information and things that I'm learning and things that I'm observing that can allow you in your own life to pay attention, go, how do I become a better version of myself? How do I continue to improve? How do I continue to show up as best as I can as a human being in life? Because that is the only way that humanity is going to become better, is by each of us becoming better. So as you begin to analyze your own day, and as you attempt to go, today is going to be, at the end of the day, a once upon a lifetime. If you choose it to be that way, and not let life simply go by, especially with regrets or fear of what someone is going to think, what someone is going to say. All those things are useless. They only take away from living a life that you can look at and really enjoy and be proud of your steps forward. That's all it's all about, is steps forward in becoming, I keep saying it, and the only way I could think of it is the best version of you. Learning from your own lifetime so that you can take steps forward, but not living in fear. I cannot tell you how many people ask me, well, how did you start the podcast? And how did you? I go, you guys, if you saw me when I started this podcast and what it took for me to simply press the button on the camera and start talking and start saying things that in my own mind I was fearful of, because I had lots of fears of going, how am I going to share with people things about myself, things that nobody knows about my life. And a part of it comes from, if you've heard me before, that the war definitely did a number on me in learning to be silent, even though I didn't look silent on the outside when I was at work or when I was with friends, but I was silent on the inside because I didn't dare speak up to a lot of the things that I thought of. And turning the camera on and going through the steps of allowing the fear to simply just exist. And it doesn't matter if it exists or not. What mattered more is to be able to move forward and not have any kind of regrets in life. And I don't live in regrets. I don't look at life in any way that you need to regret anything. It's all a stepping stone. It's all an experience of learning, because there is no school of a life, unfortunately. I wish there was such a thing where instead of our natural schools that we actually have schools of life, of how to be a better version of you, how to communicate, how to go outside your comfort zones and get out of your fears. Yes, there's lots of classes. Please don't send me any information. I understand. I've taken plenty of classes of all kinds. Yes, there's classes, but the best learning is when we step outside our own comfort zone and begin doing things that we have thought of multiple of times, and think that, oh, so and so can do so and so can achieve this. No, you can achieve this. You can take the steps to move forward, and it doesn't matter if it's perfect. As a matter of fact, there's no such thing as perfect. Anytime you say perfection, I guarantee you put a panel of people, there will be plenty that don't like whatever you think is perfect versus people that go, this was great. So it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks or does. What's important is that you show up in the best way that you can. And you live today with the thought, with the intention that today is gonna be a once up on a lifetime. This is the important part, is for you to show up in that thinking that today I am gonna do the best that I can. Not intentionally planning everything, because even when you plan everything, it doesn't mean that it's going to go the way that you think it's going to go. But for you to be able to maneuver and work around it, that's the most important part. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I thank you for being here. And please remember, our attitude always determines our altitude in life. And I'll see you in the next podcast. Please subscribe and share. Thank you.